The Blockchain Association has filed an amicus brief in the ongoing lawsuit by Coin Center against the Treasury Department and its sanctions watchdog, the Office of Foreign Asset Control. Joining us now to discuss is Blockchain Association CEO Kristin Smith. Welcome, Kristin.
Good morning, Jen. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here. So let's take a step back. The suit stems from the Treasury Department sanctioning Tornado Cash in August, saying it's been used to launder more than $7 billion worth of virtual currency since 2019. They called the move a matter of national security. Why do you think that regulators thought that this was the right move to make?
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting question. Well, I think regulators thought that they were doing something to help get behavior out of North Korea under control. But the problem is that Tornado Cash is simply a tool, and a tool that can be used by Americans for perfectly lawful and legal purposes. And so this is really the first time where we've seen OFAC, which does have the authority to bring sanctions against persons or property, and has extended that to open source software. So this is a very troubling trend, and there are two different cases going on right now. There was the Van Loon v. Treasury, where we filed a brief in support of that back in April. And then our longtime friends at Coin Center, we were very proud to file this brief last week in support of their case against the Treasury. So, we're hopeful that, that the courts will see that OFAC did overstep their authority and undo the sanctions against software.
If the issue is that Tornado Cash is used so egregiously by openly hostile regimes like North Korea, which I don't know, they kind of have a thing about nuclear annihilation of their enemies and things like that as a potential eventual goal. They're kind of wacky. Isn't this more like having a bridge that has a giant hole in it? And yeah, the bridge is well built and everything's great, and most of the bridge works great, but there's that big gaping hole that can kill a lot of people. So, I don't know. I'm guessing, why are you guys dying on this hill? Why do you want to, what's the issue here? All right, so it's Tornado Cash. You get rid of it, something else comes up in its place, maybe with a little less sketchiness involved. Granted, there might be some First Amendment issues with code, but ultimately, isn't it sort of like the greater good here that I'm against glowing in the dark when I go to bed, personally. So I think that might be an issue. So why fight for this?
Yeah, no, I think it's really important to fight for this because, yes, this is a tool that can be used for, by bad people out there who want to do bad things. But there are a lot of neutral tools that can be used by criminals. I mean, just think of the internet. I mean, that's something that's used by criminals every day, but we don't get rid of the internet. And just because a tool in the beginning may have a slightly larger percentage than on average used by criminal activity, it doesn't mean over time that tool isn't going to be something that's more valuable and valid. And I do think it's really important to look at both the First Amendment and the Fifth Amendment concerns, right? I mean, there were lawful Americans who had their Ethereum tokens locked up in Tornado Cash, and there was no process for them in order to object to this decision that was coming down from OFAC. And then I think that the ability to write code is something that is sacred that we must preserve. We can't it's an incredibly slippery slope if we start messing with the speech elements there. And so I think this is something that we're really proud to support. And, we hope that Coin Center, is victorious in their challenge.
So short of, Dennis Rodman maybe, negotiating on your behalf to tell North Korea to stop it. What's your proposal? If you were to get, if somebody from national security sat you down in a room and they said, look, Kristin, we got this problem. North Korea likes to use this money to, buy nukes. Can you help us out here with something else? If you want to keep Tornado Cash running, like, how do you stop them from using Tornado Cash? Or are you just fine with it? It's just like, well, you know what? Yeah, not everyone on Tornado Cash is a criminal. Sure, lots of criminals like using Tornado Cash. Sure, one of those criminals wants to kill us all. So which would you like? How would you solve this?
Yeah, so listen, OFAC has a more precise tool to use. They can use blockchain analytics to track where those North Korean wallets are, and then can sanction those specific addresses. I mean, listen, I think, I'm not a national security expert, right? I focus on figuring out what's right for the crypto industry when it comes to policy. And this is something that I think from an industry perspective, we need to preserve. I do think, though, as I mentioned, that OFAC can use more targeted sanctions against specific persons, against specific wallets, without sacrificing an entire class of technology.
All right, I want to touch on some comments you made just based on the answer you just said. You said that regulatory actions should only be targeted at bad actors who abuse this tool for illegal purposes. Can regulatory action be so black and white? Maybe explain a little bit more about what you meant when you released that statement.
Yeah, well, listen, OFAC has OFAC stands for the Office of Foreign Assets Control, and they have very specific authority to sanction bad actors to prevent the use of funds. They do this all of the time in the traditional financial services world, and they do it with crypto addresses. There is an entire blacklist of both jurisdictions and also specific wallets that exchanges and others aren't allowed to transact with. And it's not just the intermediaries, but it's actual individuals are prohibited from interacting with these addresses. So this is a much more precise tool. I don't think that we need to get rid of the entire innovation of what Tornado Cash was trying to do in order to get at these bad actors.
We've pointed out some of the negative use cases for Tornado Cash in this segment. I think it's important for our audience to understand the positive ones. So can you tell us, why it's important to have tools like Tornado Cash operational and accessible to people in different jurisdictions around the world?
Yeah, well, I think privacy is an incredibly important thing to preserve. I mean, I don't think there's anyone out there that would want every single financial transaction that they have conducted to be available, for everyone to see. And so, there are sensitive things like maybe supporting certain political groups or medical expenses that you might want to not share with others. There are businesses that might not want to tip off competitors as to what they're investing in. Or there's just, people who have maybe large amounts of cryptocurrency in their wallet, and they don't want a neighbor or a friend to realize that they have that there because there's operational security concerns. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people would want to keep their financial transactions private. And I think that this is something that we need to find the right balance for, right? Nobody wants North Korea to be financing the, nuclear weapons or any other activity. But at the same time, we can't just stop all of, the progress that we're making in terms of privacy technology in order to potentially stop them. Because the one thing I do know about criminals is they do tend to find new and innovative ways to do things. And so we have to be, vigilant as a country, and we want our government to be strong in this space, but not with sacrificing the freedoms upon which, this country was built.
So I guess we want billionaires to be able to hide their money, is what you're saying. Like the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world. He missed out on Tornado Cash.
That is one perfectly normal reason, is if somebody wants to hide their money. It's not like billionaires that are doing this, right? I mean, I might want to go engage in a very private medical transaction and want to use cryptocurrency and pay for that, right? And not know have somebody be able to trace my wallet. Like these are totally normal things. Privacy is normal.
And so Tornado Cash DAO was taken over by an attacker. Speaking of malicious, bad actors, and I'm not just talking about Freddie Prinze Jr., although I think you wouldn't want Freddie Prinze Jr. using the internet, period. Do DeFi exploits like this have any, is there anything that makes you worried here when it comes to stuff like that, where you have a DAO taken over by hackers?
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of what happened in this instance, but yeah, I mean, I do think that yeah, anytime that hackers get involved and take over something, and that's problematic. But yeah, I don't know the specifics to comment on this.
Kristin, lastly, on the topic of privacy, how do we think about balancing privacy and regulation? It seems like there's a push and pull happening right now, and how are you thinking about it?
Yeah, well, listen, I think that if you look across government, it's actually some of the financial regulators within the Treasury Department, were out there sooner than others. I mean, it was the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network about 10 years ago now that issued guidance on what kind of information needed to be collected and shared with the government. So I think, there's a couple different things we need to look at. It's what kind of information is going to the government, and is that information being stored securely? And is there a better way using the blockchain that we can go around, getting the government the tools they need to fight these crimes? I think OFAC very clearly has sanctions. They've been adding wallets to blacklists for many years now. And that is something that is used by different protocols that plug into that blacklist, also the exchanges and others. And I think there is, a lot of good work done there. But no, I do think we need to have, sort of a serious discussion around privacy and figuring out, how in this like increasingly digital world that we live in, are we going to be able to preserve some of that, particularly as more and more financial transactions are publicly available. And so, I think it's important that we look at all sorts of different technologies that can help us do that, because, privacy, I think, is incredibly important, and it's going to be, good for us to get that balance correct in order for this to be something that gains more mainstream adoption in the future.
Kristin, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
It's great to be here.
All right. I must note that CoinDesk reached out to the Treasury Department for comment, but we have not yet heard back. That was Blockchain Association CEO Kristin Smith.